What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Book Club with Caden Kelly, a podcast where I read books and then I talk about them on a podcast live so that you can get all these juicy details as well to help improve your health, your wealth, your wisdom, and your peace. Hey, Moon 2, already in the chat. The podcast is back. I've been gone for I missed the last 2 weeks live. I've been posting, but I missed 2 weeks, and I'll get to it. I'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I'll tell you, we're back, and we're live. We're live on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. You can find links to the live to come chat with Hey B Moon, come hang out and ask questions. Go to my blog, cadenkellysblog.wordpress.com, and you'll find links to all of those places and also my socials and also the Spotify and Apple podcast and to my other podcast called Here's the Point with Caden Kelly. I write in the blog. I post TikToks. I posted my first little TikTok video today, Instagram video, in a while. But I've been pretty good about writing once a week in the blog, doing the TikToks. Anyway, we've got lots of content for you to consume to improve your health, to improve your wealth, your wisdom, and your peace. And that's what we're here for. This is an accountability measure for myself. But the double-edged sword to this whole thing is you get to benefit from the information from these books as well. So welcome. Thanks for listening. Sorry I've been gone. So, I'll just give you a little brief rundown where I've been. So 2 weeks ago, I had a... Oh, no, I talked about it last week in the podcast that I pre-recorded. I didn't record live 2 weeks ago because I had a colitis flare and I was dying and I had some other stuff come up. And then last week I didn't record live. I pre-recorded that episode because last week I was on a motherfucking cruise with Hey B Moon and some other friends. We went to the Eastern Caribbean. We went with Carnival Cruise out of Miami. That was a hell of a time. But I'll tell you what, and then I went on the cruise, and now I'm back, and now I have a hell of a head cold. And I'm congested, and my mouth is so dry, my throat is scratchy, and I'm coughing and sneezing. So I might sound gross for this episode. And I wasn't going to record today, but most of my symptoms seem to have cleared up now that it's late afternoon. So I thought, fuck it. We'll do it live. So I'm here. And I plan to give you my whole heart for this episode, for every episode, because they're all important. And I'm excited to talk about this book today. If you remember last week, I told you I was going to read Broke Millennial by Aaron Lowry. Stop scraping by and get your financial life together. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I read this book on the cruise. I love reading these money books. Now that I'm almost a year into owning this business outright by myself, my carpet cleaning business, I am just faced with more and more stresses that I'm learning to cope with. More debt, but more work, more shit to do. Lots of shit to do. So it has not been easy. And books like this help keep me in check for my personal finances, for my business finances. It was fun to read it on the cruise. It kept my mind fresh. It kept me focused on my life goals. Cruise, man, you get on any of you who've been on a cruise know that you basically disappear for 4 days, 5 days, however long you're gone. Everything, all your food is taken care of. All of the entertainment, all of the travel, all the household shit. You don't have to do jack for 5 days. In fact, you're encouraged to just consume as much food and as much alcohol and as much pleasure as possible. And it's such a sick lifestyle. It goes against everything that we talk about on this podcast, just like endless binging, consumption, overindulgence. It's gross. The people are gross. You're on a boat with 3,000 people. Diseases are floating around everywhere. It's disgusting. But it was a good time. We went out, had a great time, good group of people. Now we're back. So it's Halloween. Fucking happy Halloween. I don't know. I actually don't know if anybody's gonna show up now that it's with the holiday. But fuck it. Happy Halloween, everyone. Let's talk about this book, Broke Millennial by Aaron Lowry. Let me tell you about Aaron really quickly. Hey, B Moon, you are here, and you know I can always rely on you. All right, here's Aaron Lowry. Here's a little picture from her book, her bio. In the book, she says, Aaron Lowry is a millennial personal finance expert, writer, and speaker. She founded BrokeMillennial.com as a way to reach her fellow millennials who are struggling to understand basic personal finance concepts. Lowry's writings has appeared in New York Magazine, Forbes, and U.S. News and World Report, and on Business Insider and Thought Catalog. Some of her many opinions have been featured in USA Today and The Wall Street Journal, and on CBS Sunday Morning, NBC News, Refinery 29, Marketplace Money, and Mashable. Lowry lives in New York City with her spunky rescue dog, Mosby. And she's written, I think, sequels to this book called, it looks like, they got them in her bio. Broke Millennial Takes on Investing and Broke Millennial Talks Money. So, might be more, I might be interested in those books after reading this one. I'll tell you what, this book is like personal finance 101. It really is. I should have done a little bit more research. I still benefited from it. I got a lot of awesome notes and helpful money tips. But yeah, it's like I'll read you some of the chapter titles really quick. It's really basic fundamentals for money. How to deal with budgeting, what are credit reports and credit scores? I have consumer debt. What do I do? I can't afford to split this dinner bill. Anyway, it's really basic. What I shouldn't just pay the minimum due on my credit card. So yeah, and you know what? But she was really wise. And I guess I'm a millennial. I was born in 96. So she shares some pretty interesting facts about millennials will on average retire later in life than the previous generation, which was what came before millennials and after the boomers. Anyway, she it sounds like statistically our Gen X. Thank you. It sounds like our generation is going to retire on average 5 to 10 years later than Gen X and boomers, because millennials really do struggle with their personal finances. We don't handle money the same way that the previous generations do. So let's talk about money. You're here now. We're gonna have a pretty straightforward conversation about money, about the fundamentals of money. Hey, B Moon says I will never own a home. That's not true. That's not true that you will never own a home. You will only never own a home if you choose to never buy a home. But that's, it's worth mentioning that it's definitely become more difficult to buy a home. Our generation's getting robbed. And but that doesn't mean it's not possible. I bought this home that I'm in, and I don't think it was a bad decision, but it was just a really expensive decision. And it's possible. But I guess the bigger question is, why would you want to buy a home? And she talks a little bit about the pros and cons of renting, the pros and cons of buying, and so we're gonna get into it a little bit. Mashed potatoes. Where have I been? I already explained where I've been. I've been sick with a cold, and I was not gonna record this. But I decided I was going. Now I am, and it's almost 4:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's been a ride. The last few weeks have been a ride for me with this podcast, but I'm sticking to it. I'm not missing. I don't miss. We don't miss, baby. All right, so let's get into it. Let's go to. I didn't write the chapter titles down in my notes, so I'm going to do that here. Chapter 1. Money isn't the worst. Seriously, that's what the title is called. She says in chapter 1, her her intention is to teach young adults, 20-something-year-olds, basic financial education and literacy, overcome financial anxiety. That's the point of this book. Let's keep going. Chapter 2, is money a Tinder date or or marriage material? She's trying to be funny, and she's kind of funny, but it's mostly corny money comedy. Is money a Tinder date or is money marriage material? Shit's really corny. Is your paycheck a hit it and quit it date, or are you building a long-term healthy relationship? She says. Hit it and is your paycheck, are you living paycheck to paycheck, or are you using your money wisely for the long term? A lot of your relationship with money today stems from how your parents raised you and trained you on money. Some of our parents handled their money really well, and some of our parents handle their money very poorly even to this day. And at the end of the day, we're all only responsible for our own money habits. That's it. The way we use and spend our money, we're the only one responsible and accountable for that. So regardless of how well or how poorly our parents use their money or raised us on how to use money, we're the only ones now that if you're an adult, I guess, if you're 16 and you still, if you're 26 and you still live at home, there's not, okay, actually that's not true. If you're 16 and you don't make real money, then there's not much you can do. You're still in your parents' umbrella, safety umbrella. But if you're growing up and making real money and getting out of the house, really, if you make any money at all, it's I guess even at 16, it's your responsibility to know what to do with the money. But if you're 16, you just, it's your first exposure, so you're not going to know what to do. And a lot of good money decisions come through trial and error. A lot of education, mentorship, proper mentorship, not getting swindled by loser money pigs. And we'll figure it out. So whether you're 16 or you're 26 or you're 56, you're the only one responsible for your money. You're the only one responsible for your money decisions. That's it. That's it. Your financial situation is your responsibility. And so that's why we read these books, so we can understand money better, so we can understand how to use it better, what to do with the money that we make, how to set ourselves up for our future, or would we rather live our lives with a hit it and quit it relationship with money? Do we care enough to move out of the hit it and quit it phase, the Tinder dates phase of money, or do we want to establish healthy, long-term, successful relationships with money? That's chapter 2, baby. Let's keep going. Chapter 3, I took no notes. Excuse me. Do you have a gold star in personal finance? No notes. Chapter 4, dealing with the dreaded B word, which is budgeting. I really like this chapter. We've talked about budgeting before and goal setting with money, and usually it's kind of corny too, but this, she introduced a new budgeting strategy to me that I'm really attracted to. I think it can benefit most people, but it's mostly applicable to freelance workers, self-employed people, etc. So let's talk about it. I guess I took some notes before that. Let me get some water. All right, budgeting strategies. God, this sucks. Sorry. Budgeting strategies. Blech. Standard budgeting protocol. After tax and retirement savings income, 50% should go towards expenses, 20% should go towards saving/investing, and 30% should go towards daily living. That's pretty standard budgeting advice. I think I've Googled that 100 times. When I make a paycheck, what should I be doing? What should I do with my money? 50% of your money should go towards living expenses, 20% towards saving and investing, 30% towards daily living. And you don't really want. Right now, I'm in a position where more than 50% goes towards my expenses, and which means it's coming out of my savings and my investing and my daily living. But this is a healthy standard budgeting protocol. Mashed Potato says a good budget will make you feel like you got a raise. A good budget will make you feel like you got a raise. What's your budgeting protocol, Hato? What do you do with your paychecks? Do you live by that 50-20-30 rule? A great way out of living paycheck to paycheck is zero-sum budgeting. using last month's income to pay for this month's expenses. This is what I'm talking about. Zero-sum budgeting. This is new to me, but as a freelance, as a self-employed person whose income varies widely month to month, and my expenses are really high, the general idea is, now that we're at the end of the month, I'm like right at the money spot. I can look over my entire October and add up how much money I made, which is really easy to do because it's all deposited. I get to see the grand total for how much I made in October, and then I can anticipate what most of my expenses are going to be in November. And then I use the X amount of dollars that I made in October to pay for X, Y, and Z in November. So I can anticipate rent and payroll and business loans, credit card payments. I can anticipate like utilities and internet and phones. And then if I'm going to be super proactive, I should anticipate my retirement and other personal savings goals, fund money savings. And then I can anticipate, and then I usually will have the rest left over to pay for entertainment, fun stuff, whatever. Mashed Potato says, I spend way more on my expenses and daily living, but the goal is to get to those numbers, which is 50, 30, 20. I just started working a few extra hours to reach those percentages. Nice. Sweet. Good for you, man. That's awesome. You can break down each category, your expenses column, your savings and investing column, and your daily living column, and see almost to the penny how much money goes into each spot. And so for me, a person like me, I can see how much money I made last month, and I can just like assign a dollar a roll. X amount of dollars goes towards my expenses, X goes towards my savings and investing, X goes towards my daily living, and then whatever is left over should go into something else as well, so that there is no money left over, so that all my things are covered, and then hopefully there's money left over. Lately, there's not a lot of money left over. In fact, I like I was saying, my expenses column is way high right now, so I usually am neglecting some other areas like the savings, my retirement, and daily living, but whatever. Hey, B Moon, I like those percentages. I wasn't able to write them down. Can you send them to me? Yeah, absolutely, my guy. I'll text it to you live. We'll text it live. So I'm going to text B Moon, 50% expenses, 30% daily living, 20% savings and investing. And we're going to talk more about the, she goes into a lot of depth on each column, especially for savings and investing, which is always fascinating to me because I want to be rich. And so if I want to be rich, I should save and invest, right? So all of that is always super exciting for me. Mashed potatoes, the cool thing is when you become aware of how the money is being spent, you stop spending money on worthless stuff and end up investing it into stuff with more value. But I've got to take my own advice with my lunch budget. Yeah, plus your new mouse, right? But you're exactly right. Instead of this zero-sum budgeting makes way more sense in my head versus getting your paycheck for, most people get paid twice a week, right? Or twice a month, rather, and every other week. So you can expect like a $3,000 check or $4,000 or $2,000 or whatever your check is. But then you are trying to break that down into like half of rent and half of what you expect gas to be, X, Y, and Z. The zero sum makes way more sense because if you're using last month's money to pay for this month's expenses, you already know what you made last month. You know what that number is. Whether that's $8,000 or $12,000 or $20,000 or $5,000 or $1,000 or whatever you made last month, you know how much money you have to work with to pay for all the things that come up this month. So that mouse, Mashed Potato says, fit into my fun money budget, believe it or not. Hey, there's no judgment in here, baby. I spend money stupidly all the time. So whether it did or didn't, but if it did, I'm proud of you. So that's zero-sum budgeting. There's more notes. Cutting back in one area without explicitly rerouting the savings into another budget makes the sacrifice pointless. Yes, and that just kind of like what Mashed Potatoes just said. If you're trying to cut back on your spending, so you unsubscribe from subscriptions, you unsubscribe from Netflix and a bunch of other shit, and so now you have like $100 extra a month, but then that money doesn't get reassigned a job, then that the savings is pointless. You're more than likely going to just spend it on stupid stuff anyway. But if you take that $100 and you say, okay, I cut out all these subscriptions, I have $100 left over, I'm going to put that towards my a fun money category. I'm going to take that money and put it towards my retirement or towards my investments. It just makes way more sense in my OCD brain to categorize all your spending like that. It also is way more effective to optimize your spending, to optimize your budgeting like this. So I've spent a lot of time in the last few days categorizing my expense. I did a really deep dive on my expenses. I'm going even deeper now with all the extra knowledge that I'm getting towards investing and saving from this book. Yeah. Hey, B Moon, I spend money stupidly all the time looking at you, Wave Runners. Yes, I'm telling you, I bought those stupid Wave Runners. Dude, I'm so dumb with money. That's why I'm doing this, because I've made stupid decisions. I'm trying to not make stupid decisions. I'm trying to be better with my money. When you grow up and you start making real adult money, you're like, oh shit, the money just keeps coming. But then you keep making money, and then the bills keep piling up, and then the expense column gets way too out of control because you just keep buying stupid shit. Then you got to go backwards. That's where I'm at, right? I'm like kind of going backwards, and I keep telling myself that the big money purchases I've made in the last year are worth my time, like my house and my business, and they're way better than Wave Runners. The return on those purchases it's putting money back in my pocket, and it's giving me ownership over something of value. But it still is fucking expensive. I'm dying over here. Hey, B Moon, I have some free time now to definitely become better with my money, hoping to focus on that. Yes, well, you're in the right place to get started. Let's keep going. She suggests cutting back on excess spending like coffee and subscriptions, but this is not essential to make a breakthrough financially. Cut back somewhere else. You remember Scott Trench and what's the other guy? What's the other guy's name? Oh yeah, it's something Collins, Mr. Collins. Their advice is that you'll find more success cutting back on your big expenses like housing, rent, your mortgage or your rent, minimizing your payments there. You'll find bigger improvements by minimizing your transportation, like your car, how you travel, your gas, insurance, all that shit, and food. How much you spend on food. Those are usually the three biggest expenses for people. So their advice is you'll find more success cutting back on those three big things rather than cutting back on your daily coffee or your monthly Netflix subscription and things like those. Mashed potatoes, expenses to be heavy AF. Do be heavy AF. That's why it's hard for me to look into investment stuff. If I put as much as I want into savings, I have a hard time enough left to invest. Well, we're going to talk more about I have a thought about this savings and investing. There's a whole conversation to be had here, so I'm going to get back to that. But that's this on budgeting. Give every dollar that you make a roll. I think that's the wisest thing to do when it comes to budgeting strategy. And budgeting is wise not because it automatically makes you successful, but it makes you responsible and accountable to your money. It also just keeps you in check with how much you're spending. If you're like me and you don't always check your budgeting, I'm forcing myself to become better at how my spending is because I just spend like crazy anyway. We buy. You don't think about all the DoorDashes that DoorDash adds up way more than going to Starbucks, way more than Netflix. DoorDash adds the fuck up. Going out to the club, if you go out to the club and you go to bars, your drink tab adds up. That shit adds up. So doing this budgeting just on its own keeps you accountable to your dollars, to what you're spending. So keep track of what you're spending, and then if you want to, we're going to get into what you should be doing with the dollars that you make. Let's keep going. Chapter 5, picking the right financial products. No notes. Chapter 6, credit reports and scores. No notes. Yeah, I know a lot of it is like, what is your credit report and what is your credit score? And, I just didn't get anything out of those chapters, so I didn't take any notes. Chapter 7, wait, I shouldn't just pay the minimum due on my credit card? No, the answer is no. You should do your best to pay off high interest credit card debt as soon as possible. That's basically that's it. Chapter 8. Yikes, I already have consumer debt. What now? I do have a couple notes here. What this chapter really boils down to is if you take actionable steps to improve. I don't know why there's a period right there. What this chapter really boils down to is if you take actionable steps to improve your financial situation, you can know all the info banks provide for loans and credit cards, but you are the only one responsible for spending out of your control and not making tough sacrifices to pay off debt. Same thing there. This is I'm telling you, man, this is a tough spot for me to be in. I've never been in credit card debt. I've never been in any debt, really. And now I have a business loan, I have a mortgage, and I have credit card debt for my business. I'm in a lot of extra debt that I've never been in before. And I'll tell you what, that shit keeps you up at night because those numbers, they're like frozen in my brain. It gives me a little bit of anxiety, but it also kind of, it's incentive for me to get up earlier, to work a little harder, to push a little harder, to do extra work, to close sales, to get, just to get work done. It's not times of plenty anymore. You guys, we got to go. We got to fucking go. It's not times of plenty. You're the only one responsible for your money, for your financial situation. And if you have debt, a lot of Americans have debt. A lot of people have debt, but a lot of Americans have debt. A lot of people have high interest credit card debt. Some debt is better than others to have. People talk about good debt and bad debt, but at the end of the day, debt is debt. And most debt carries interest. And if if you're not, I guess this book really is about the fundamentals of what debt is and interest and what you should do with all this information. And I'm not going into that much detail or that much of the fundamentals, but I will say debt is debt at the end of the day. And if you're stacked against credit card debt or a mortgage or student loans or medical bills or things, just big numbers, some of that debt is less urgent than others. For example, I have debt on a credit card that is at it has 18% yield or interest rate or whatever yield. 18%. That's a high fucking number. Every month that there's a balance on that credit card, I'm charged 18% of that number. My girlfriend has student loan debt from graduating nursing school, which is at like 3.5% or 4.5 or 5% or something like that. Way lower. 30% of what my interest debt. That's way less stressful or way less urgent than credit card debt. I have a mortgage, my house mortgage, 5%, almost 5%. Again, way less urgent than the 15%, 18%. The principle here is if you have debt, if you want to become financially free, you should pay off your debt. You need to get rid of your debt. And if you have multiple sources of debt, there's different strategies to take. They talk about like the snowball approach, where you pay off the smallest balance, even if it's not the highest interest rate. You pay off the smallest balance to the largest balance. But in my head, it makes more sense to pay off the highest interest debt first because that's what's accumulating the most amount of money over the long run. So if you're in debt, but you know what happens? What you have to do if you're in debt, you have to spend less on other shit and you have to spend more to pay off. You have to make more payments on that debt. And that's hard. Making sacrifices to pay off any kind of debt is hard. Especially if you're like me and you're just a comfortable spender and you kind of just spend money on everything. It's tough to step back, cut spending on areas of your life that you normally don't have to areas that you don't have to think about normally, and then to put that money towards paying off debt. But that's the only way to become financially free. It's the only way to relieve that kind of stress. Unless I don't know what happens if you file for bankruptcy. Don't the banks consume they repossess all your stuff to pay off your debt? I don't know. I need like a cough drop or something. Sorry. This sucks. I hate being sick. But that's all that, I guess that's mostly what I got to say on debt. What it really boils down to is if you take actionable steps to improve your financial situation, you can know all of the information that the banks provide for loans and credit cards. So you before you sign for a credit card, before you sign for a loan, you can read like the terms and conditions that's 1,000 pages long. You should know what you're getting yourself into before you get yourself into it. You should know what the consequences are of missing payments or of defaulting on a loan, or what collateral is. You're the only one responsible for it. That's the point right here. You are the only one responsible for spending out of your control and not making tough sacrifices to pay off debt. That's it. That's chapter 8. Wow, you're such a sick boy. This is low-key disgusting. Yeah, I know. I agree. I wouldn't listen if I were you, but I'm grateful that you are. I got this MF cough drop in here, so I'm feeling a little better. Chapter 9 is student loans, how to handle them without having a full-on panic attack. We talked about loans. Chapter 10, I've got debt, so why should I care about saving? Pay yourself first. Okay, we're going back to the saving, investing conversation. This is the stuff that I really like to talk about, or that I enjoy learning. Because I don't do, it's new to me. Pay yourself first is your savings. Savings can be broken down into several levels. 1, emergency fund. 2, your personal investments or retirement. 3, fuck you money. 4, fun money. 5, big purchases. The difference between fuck you money and fun money is fuck you money is when someone says, I need you to work weekends, or I need you to work overtime, and you could say, no, fuck you. That's fuck you money. And fun money is the excess cash that you blow on vacations or on toys and stuff. That's the difference. I always thought they were the same, but they're different. Fuck you money is like, I don't need to do what you're asking of me to pay my bills, so fuck you. And fun money is, I'm going to spend this money however I goddamn please. Spend more time establishing an emergency. Okay, yeah, let's talk about an emergency fund, because so many people talk about emergency funds, and that's the first thing that I neglect. I have $0 in an emergency fund, which is a financial disaster, and that's why there's people like Aaron Lowry writing books for broke millennials like this motherfucker. I've always justified my emergency fund as just my excess cash. I guess my fun money and my fuck you money as my emergency fund. But there's emergency fund plays an explicit role in your financial world. It's money that you set aside. Okay, for a traditionally employed person who might have stability with a corporation, should have 3 to 6 months of monthly expenses saved. So if your rent and your food and your car and your loans and your credit card payments and all of that add up to $10,000 a month for you and your family, you should have $30,000 to $60,000 saved that you never touch, that sits in a. Oh, we'll talk about different accounts that it should sit in, but it should sit in an account, ready for when shit hits the fan. And if you are a freelance worker or a self-employed person, your number should be more closer to 9 months of expenses saved, because income's always unpredictable like me, and shit could hit the fan way easier. So it's better. That's just extra buffer zone for you, for people like me who have no fucking clue what's going to happen. Totally unpredictable. If I had, so if my expenses were $10,000 a month, I'd want $90,000 saved for when shit hits the fan. And That could look like all your employees quitting, or it could look like nobody calling. It could look like you break your legs and you can't work anymore, or you go blind or some shit, and you have 9 months to figure it out, right? You have 9 months to figure out what you're going to do to recover. But that's the general wisdom. There are different. She says it's better. It's best to have that money, and it's better to have that money sitting in an account that's gaining at least 1% annual percentage yield. So most bank accounts, I think like my savings account with America First, I should probably Google it, but it's less than 1%. But they have different accounts. They have money market accounts that generate higher APY. Basically, so that your money, your $90,000, if you have $90,000 saved, is worth more every year. It's gaining interest. It's gaining yield, gains. You're getting gains. And then best case scenario, maybe, would be to follow the advice of all of these other investing books and put that emergency fund in as a total stock index fund with Vanguard, so that if the numbers calculate according to what's it, J.L. Collins, I think, where you're gaining close to 11% interest on that money every year, that's better than 1%, and 1% is better than 0%. Then putting it in a tin can and burying it in your backyard, you're losing whatever inflation is raising. So at the end of the year, if inflation is raised 3%, you've lost, what's 3% of 90,000? $3,000? I don't know. Am I going to fact check myself? $90,000, 3%, $2,700. So you lost $2,700 by putting it in a tin can in your backyard. You see what I'm saying? So emergency fund, when it comes to savings, if you're going to take responsibility of your money right now, and what I'm doing, honestly, this is my honest to God actionable steps for this book, for money. With your next paychecks, as you're doing your zero-sum budgeting, take your paycheck, figure out how much all your expenses cost, and then let's come up with an emergency fund goal, total savings goal, and an emergency savings goal, my retirement savings goal, because I have zero retirement because I'm self-employed, so I need to establish a retirement account, which we'll talk more about retirement later, and fund money, my fund money to spend as I please, or other big savings goals that I have, like if I wanted to buy another investment property, or if I needed to buy more carpet cleaning vans. I just need more savings, have more cash, right? So the idea is build up your emergency fund first, but don't neglect the other saving areas as well. And if you have debt as well, this is where it's tricky, because then if you have debt, if you're in credit card debt or have student loans or something, those are taking more money. So is it wiser to pay off the credit card loans ASAP and 100% neglect your savings goals? I don't know. That's what I've been doing. I'm really trying to pay off the credit card before I do anything else with this money. But then I'm also in the back of my head thinking, well, I wish I could take some of that money and invest it, because the reason that investing works is because of compound interest, because of continual investment, continual investing, turning gains into investments. And it's all so much. There's so much to do and to think about. And this is the fundamentals, right? Basically, we want to pay off debt, but we also don't want to neglect our savings. We also don't want to neglect our retirement. We need to be responsible more than anything for our money. We need to sit down with our spreadsheets or our paper and go over our bank statements, go over all transactions, and then understand how much we're spending month by month on expenses, and and then we need to figure out how much we need to save per month to get to X amount of dollars in X amount of time. We need to put the money in the right places so that they're actually gaining interest, or that they're gaining gains instead of losing money to inflation. There's just so many things to do with money. There's a few comments. Whoops. I'm lucky to have 6K saved. 6K is better than 0K, B-Moon. Mashed potatoes. Yeah, the emergency fund is hard. I am well aware that I'm being way too naive about how unpredictable life is. Yeah, but it's mostly in a ironic way. You're mostly funny about it. Hey, B Moon, after getting laid off, I wish I had an emergency fund for sure. That's what I'm doing. I'm paying off credit cards first, then we'll focus on my savings. Yeah. Yeah, it's money's just it's just tough. It's just tough. And yeah, like getting laid off, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And that's, if our parents were all as wise as Warren Buffett, then we would have our savings, our emergency fund secured. We'd have a retirement portfolio secured when we're 16, right? And then when you turn 25 and you lose your first job and you're moving back in with mom and dad, you have some savings. You have your emergency fund. So it's not all peaches and cream. It's never easy. Money's always complicated. And we live in a weird inflation bubble right now where everything seems way too overpriced and out of reach, out of touch. Like Baby Moon is saying, we'll never afford a house. It's just everything is very expensive. It's really hard to live right now. Who knows what's going to happen in 1, 2, 5, 10 years? Who knows? So all we can do is be as responsible and accountable as we can and move with flow with the punches, the ebb and flow of the financial world. Just be responsible, right? Earn more money, spend less. Like there's things we can do. Be more responsible. Let's keep going. Let's see. Page 151 has a good list of all possible monthly expenses. Okay, well, so let's get the brain rolling really quick. I'm going to go over these, the list of expenses that you should probably be paying attention to. I'm just going to read them. Rent or mortgage, internet or cable, utilities, cell phone, student loan payments, transportation costs, health insurance. That's a big fucking one when you turn 26. Car insurance, renter's insurance, groceries, entertainment such as Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, happy hour budget, dating budget, household goods like toilet paper and cleaning supplies, beauty products if you do makeup or beard oil. She actually says beard oil in there. Pets if you have kids. That makes you adult really fast, she says. And then don't forget to write down any expenses that you may pay annually as well. Okay. Consider them. Let's keep going. Chapter 11. I can't afford to split this dinner bill evenly. I didn't take any notes, but the chapter, it's an interesting chapter anyway. It's like if you're going out with friends and you go out with a big group of people and everyone's ordering appetizers, everyone's sharing, and then you want to split the bill, but then, like how do you be the person that isn't willing to contribute to all of the extras because you can't afford them? Like, how do you handle that, the weirdness? I guess the short answer is just be completely transparent from the beginning. Before anyone orders anything, say, I can't afford anything else. And and there shouldn't be shame to it. There shouldn't be like, a big part of money is the social aspect. Being able to go out with friends, do things with friends, go on vacations. Like we just went on this stupid cruise. Look at this fucking stupid boat I have. We went on this stupid cruise, and it's expensive. And you have FOMO, so you're like, okay, I'll put it on a credit card. And then you're on the boat, and gambling is expensive because everyone fucking loses. And then you want to do everyone's doing excursions. You want to do the extra fancy dinners. Like, it's hard. A lot of money is social. And people don't want to feel FOMO, and they don't want to miss out, and they want to be part of the friend group and do X, Y, and Z, but it's not free. So the point here is, be transparent. Do what you can. Be honest with yourself and your situation, but then let the people know too that I can't afford this. I don't want to afford this, and let's do something else, or maybe let's do something cheaper, or let's just be everyone orders their own meal, whatever. I would have. Health insurance has been the worst adult thing by far for mashed potatoes. Yeah, and you've got a family. I'm just solo dolo, and it sucks. I would have $700 $700 more a month if health insurance wasn't a thing. Oh yeah, I pay $500 for my family. I think my I pay like the highest deductible plan. It's like the cheapest health insurance of all time, and I think it's like $250 a month for just me. But yeah, like it's stupid. $700 for one person. But aren't you? None of your jobs give you health insurance? Like surveying or your marketing? Oh, JK, it's $150 a month, but $300 for Social Security. Yeah, well, so you're when we talk about investing, uh, things like Social Security and your 401k, those things come out of your paycheck. But she's saying that you shouldn't look down on those things because most companies are matching those contributions, right? So health insurance, no. I really thought that most health insurance was covered by employed people, but anyway, yeah, health insurance sucks. Okay, let's keep going. So that's chapter 11. It's tough to go out with friends, but what do you do? Like you want to have a good time. You want to go to concerts and go to dinner, but sometimes you can't afford it. But really, what you have to do more than anything is just be responsible and be transparent, and that there shouldn't be shame or judgment when it comes to money. Just like most things in life, we shouldn't cast judgment or shame or blame for anyone's situation. Everyone's in different places in life. Whatever. The county partners with the health insurance company to give us a reduced rate. If I didn't have that rate, I'm sure my health insurance would be nutty. Yeah, okay. Well, still $500 for a family of 4 is it's heavy, but that's, if that's a reduced rate, then good on you. Good on you, mate. Let's keep going. Chapter 12. Getting financially naked with your partner. That was a fun one to read. I had a lot of experiences with my partner about our finances too. Again, it's about transparency and your own integrity, but it also a lot of handling money with your partner comes down to your own values. You remember last week we talked about the 5 Scott, was it Scott Trench? No, that's the money guy. Scott Galloway. Yeah, Scott Galloway. He shares his 3 pillars of relationships, which is sex, money, and kids. And Robbie has 5 pillars, my old man: sex, kids, money, and politics and religion. And money is absolutely a critical element to the quality of a relationship. Not just how much money a person makes, but how they use their money, how they spend their money, how they save their money. Like I'm a kind of extra spender, but I have friends and I know people that are like super frugal, super cheap, and we just don't vibe. It's hard to vibe financially that way. And if my partner was the same way, it would be tough. But that's what it comes down to, is your financial values. So getting naked with your partner, you should be able to share what type of debt you have, how much debt you have, your credit report and scores, and how you're currently handling your debt. Those are essential conversations to have if you want to connect with the person. Hey, we're talking about connection too. We want to go back to missing each other with Brodkin and Palithra. Being honest with your personal situations, your financial situation, requires sitting down and like actually connecting with them, and then being responsible to it. She says when she talks with her partner that her partner has a good amount of debt, but it's important to him that he faces the load and takes care of it himself. So they've come up with a strategy where she covers the bills and all of his paycheck goes towards paying off his debt, so that they're both contributing. You could come up with whatever plan you want with your partner. The point is, if you or your partner have debt, you should be able to talk about it, and you should be coming up with active steps to get out of it if you want to be financially free. If you don't, if you'd rather be a sucker to the man, then just keep doing whatever you're doing. But that probably means you're not even listening to this podcast. Chapter 13, paying rent to your rent. Overcoming the emotional and financial battles of living at home after college. I took no notes from that chapter, but I do remember her saying that there shouldn't be shame associated with moving back in with home with your parents. There's Oh, it's a interesting dynamic because some cultures it's very acceptable. Like most Asian cultures, don't they live generational home in? Wow, don't most Asian cultures live in generational homes with parents and grandparents? I think it's mostly a Western phenomenon where homes are just really empty. Few people living in homes. Um, not really a phenomenon, but isn't that just like the Western culture? How the West deals with it? Aren't Italian families the same way? Don't they live in multi-generational homes? Um, she says that if you, it can be a financial burden to live with your parents, and if you should just. But again, it's not that you're a burden; it's that you should just always be responsible for your finances, and you should be aware of the impact that you moving in with your parents has on your parents because it's not free. I you know, if I were to relocate all of my shit to my parents, it would not be free and it would not be easy for them, and uh, it, I could just be I could try to be a freeloader, but here's the point. Uh, why are you moving back in with your parents? It can be a really positive experience. It can be really good for you, especially if you have a healthy relationship with your parents. Your parents have a healthy relationship with money. They can help you get up on your feet if you're in a difficult position or in a hard place in life. It can be a really positive experience, but it really just boils down to you being responsible. Are you being responsible? Are you being accountable to yourself? She says parents should be charging kids rent, not to cover the bills, but just to instill the reality that life isn't free. That life isn't free for anybody. So that was just a mental thing I remembered from chapter 13. Chapter 14, how to negotiate salary or anything else by learning to ask for what you want. How to value yourself. Traditionally employed people. What are other people? Okay, I know where I'm going. What job do you have? Are you making enough? Are you making the money that you think you deserve or that you actually deserve in your position? Are you being valued correctly by your employer? This is an interesting chapter for me to read as an employer to make sure that I'm compensating my employees well enough. So as a traditionally employed person, ask yourself, what are other people making in similar positions? What is the current cost of living? And then negotiate if you're underpaid relative to the market average. I mean, if you find out that you're overpaid, then don't say shit, right? For freelancers or self-employed people, you should not be ashamed to ask other freelancers what they're making. Or it shouldn't be taboo. You should be able to, I'm usually Googling it, and Google isn't always accurate. I can find a lot of different numbers on Google. The best way to do it is really to ask other freelancers or self-employed people, what's your take-home pay? I guess it's mostly for freelancers because self-employed people freelancers are self-employed people, but they're not employing other people. Anyway, raise rates compared to other freelancers if necessary. Don't take cheap clients. If a client, I love this. Don't take cheap clients because they're usually the hardest to work with. More expensive clients are going to be pickier, but that's not a bad thing. More expensive clients come with so many, far fewer headaches. From the book, she says, if a client asks, how much would you charge for blank? Respond with, actually, I'd really be curious how much your budget is for this project. Then I could tell you what I could offer based on your total available budget. And I don't know if you know Alex Hormozi. I've talked about him before. He's a public speaker, rich person. And something I've heard him say several times is if someone asks, can you do this for cheaper? Can you sell this to me for cheaper? His response is, well, I could sell it to you for more. And usually the person will back out or take the price. But that's his real life counter to when people to cheap customers. Can you do it for less, or can you sell it for less? His response is, I could sell it for more. And it's a weird approach, but it's true. As a self-employed or freelance person, you get to set your own rates. So it's tough though. I don't want to lose business, and sometimes I take cheap clients because it's like more secure to have work, even if it's a lower dollar cost or dollar, whatever, like dollar per average. But the goal, the best case scenario is to have several high quality, expensive customers, reoccurring customers. Mashed potatoes. Google is super inaccurate for my profession. Got to ask around. Yeah, I think it's mostly inaccurate. In fact, even asking my carpet supply guy about rates for specific jobs, I feel like he's way overpriced. So I've called other businesses pretending to be a potential client, asking for a specific, like exactly what I'm looking for, or what someone's asking of me to see their prices. Yeah, they just pretend to be a client. Seems a little shady, but fuck it. So yeah, that's if you're self-employed. You can negotiate anything, not because you're cheap, but because others will also negotiate you. Be prepared to negotiate with. 5 steps to prepare for negotiation. Practice, know your worth, have your metrics ready, ask for the order, and then have an advocate or a reference list. That's how to be a strong negotiator. Nice. Chapter 15, investing. No, it's not gambling. We've talked a lot about investing already. I got a couple notes from Kristen Wong. If investing feels like gambling, you're doing it wrong. I actually was listening to Mashed Potatoes. You'll appreciate this. I was listening to Derek Thompson, Plain English, his latest episode. I think it came out today, actually, about how to invest in a crumbling world or something like that. And the episode, he talks about how the episode just kind of turns into like, well, like what's the point of investing if if it doesn't make you happier? But the point, the guest in the that's not relative to what I'm trying to say. The guest in the episode discusses how what's the term? It's like dollar average. The dollar average investment is always more will produce greater results for you long term than like investing a huge chunk of money once and then just letting it go. So what I mean is what this principle is: invest often and early. That's the point. Put in 1 to 3% or 5% of your paycheck. Remember that 50% for expenses, 30% daily living, 20% saving and investing. Put 1 to 5% of your paycheck from your budget into investing every month or every 2 weeks or whenever you get it, because this is where real wealth grows in the stock market. And we've already read other books about investing. We know that the most consistent returns accounts come from Vanguard's Total Stock Index Fund for a more aggressive approach, and then for more stability and well-roundedness for volatility, invest in Vanguard's Total Bond Index Fund. So this is taking my own advice. I opened up my Vanguard account and I've transferred all of my I need to transfer my AMC to the moon bullshit over to Vanguard. Taking a big L on that one. I got to swallow that. I got to swallow my pride on that one. To the moon, right? Fuck that. The point is invest often. So I forget what the term. It's like dollar sum average. Take 1 to 5% of every paycheck and invest it. And if investing feels like gambling, you're not doing it right. You need to understand what investing is. You're not picking stocks. Several of these authors from other money books discuss or explain that long-term wealth doesn't come around from investing in a money stock like AMC or finding the next Apple or the next Microsoft or the next Amazon. People will do that. People will invest in those things and they'll make a lot of money. But day trading, most people are losing on day trading and most people are losing on trying to pick winner stocks. Highest success rates come by I just got an email. Why did these pop up? Greatest success rates from investing comes through dollar sum average, whatever that is called, by investing regularly, a consistent number into the same account, usually an index fund, best case scenario, Vanguard's total stock index fund. All right. Benchmarks to hit before investing ideally is already contribute to your 401k or your 403b plan, have 3 to 6 months of expenses already saved, and have no high interest debt. So there you go. Those are your 3 benchmarks to hit before you start investing. Already contribute to your 401k, already have your 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, or if you're a freelancer or self-employed person, 9 months of expenses saved, and pay off all high interest debt before you invest. Nice. Chapter 16, retirement. Can it ever happen for me? Here's where she talks about retiring later in life. Surveys suggest millennials will retire on average around 72 to 75 years old instead of 65 because they don't take steps to secure retirement and they don't really know what the fuck they're doing. She says to open a traditional Roth or a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. What am I going to? I said to read it. Page 218, or maybe that's just for my own notes. Yeah, for the self-employed and traditionally employed looking to double down, individual retirement arrangements. Yeah, so I don't have an IRA. I don't have a 401k or a 403b. So as a self-employed person, I guess what she's saying is double down, have your investment account, but also secure a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA for my retirement, which I need to do because I have zero fucking retirement. It's better to get started now and worry about rebalancing your portfolio later. A quote from some guy named Roberge, Roberge. Yeah, it's better. It's always better to start now and then balance it out and figure it out as you go. Then it is to wait to make, to be a perfectionist like me or to make the most calculated decision. It's always better to start now, start investing, open an account and close accounts down the road, move money around down the road, and just dial in exactly what it is that you need, that meet your needs, that fit your values, and will generate the greatest results for you over time. That's why I kind of went for the stupid AMC thing because, fuck it, I was going to make some money. But I've learned over time that picking individual stocks, regardless of how sexy or fun it might be, is just generally not a smart idea. What to consider when you're opening your first retirement account. Yeah, there's a checklist of things to consider when opening your first retirement account for anyone who this might apply to. Don't feel stupid when you don't know the lingo. You should try to avoid paying commissions if possible in your plan. Check the expense ratio on funds available in your 401k by using sites like Morningstar. Index funds are probably the way to go, and you'll want to focus on holding mostly stocks for a more aggressive portfolio early on in your career. Bingo! Diversification is important, but so is keeping it simple. You can easily diversify by investing in index funds like the S&P 500 or total stock market, instead of dumping all your money into company stock or sticking to one sector like tech companies. You can stand to take a risk and make aggressive investments when you're young. That means investing in stocks. Know your asset. Yeah. I'm not going to add any words to that. Know your asset allocation. How much is invested in more high risk funds versus moderate versus conservative. Stay consistent to your contributions, and don't check your portfolio on days you hear about the stock market performing poorly, lest you freak out and start to sell. That's where people lose, is when they emotionally sell because it sounds like everything's going to hell, or that the stock market is crashing, or that the global economy is failing. Investing works over the long run because you keep your money invested. But if your government's going to collapse, I don't know what the hell you should do. Chapter 17, I'm not rich enough to hire a financial planner. There's lots of tips on hiring a financial planner. I got no advice, or I got no notes. Chapter 18, but my broker said I can afford this much house. That's where I'm at right now. Home ownership may or may not be for you right now, but understand how to handle the process once you get there. So if you're like me and you bought your first house and it's really expensive, she goes through in the chapter lots of first-time home buyer programs that will help you be eligible to purchase a house. Usually what's required. commissions that you should avoid, fees that you should avoid. So, but again, remember that budgeting thing. Usually it's like best case scenarios if your monthly payment fits within that 50% of your paycheck goes towards expensive. If your expenses fit in there, you're on the money. But if it doesn't, it might not be a great investment. And renting isn't always that bad because renting offers a ton of flexibility. You're not tied to a 30-year mortgage. You usually can leave after a year, or you could travel, and it's good for people who travel for work. If you're just more transient, then there you go. Renting is not a bad option. Plus, you can save a ton of money if you choose to like room and board in places and share living spaces. You could spend like a couple $100 on rent instead of paying a couple grand in rent. So that's it. That's the book. That's Broke Millennial by Aaron Lowry. Stop scraping by and get your financial life together. I liked it. Very basic fundamentals, but really good conversation I think we had in this podcast, because money is kind of taboo in Western culture, I guess. For some reason, it's people don't talk about how much money they make, or how much they have invested, or how much they have saved, and it's usually taboo. And it shouldn't be super taboo. It's personal. It's definitely personal, but we all money's not even real. We all use money to get the things that we need to survive and to be comfortable in life. We shouldn't be afraid of it, and we shouldn't be afraid about talking about it. In fact, I think the whole world would benefit if we could have more honest conversations about money and about people who take advantage of others for their own gain for money, right? Let's just be more honest about money. So that's it. This week, what I'm reading, it's called Recapture the Rapture by Jamie Wheel. Crazy title. Recapture the Rapture. Rethinking God, sex, and death in a world that's lost its mind. And I'm not going to lie, I think I impulse bought this because I really liked the cover, the title. I've read a little bit of the introduction. I like it so far. I think it'll be an interesting conversation. I think it's going to go kind of along the lines of Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now, but also mixed with some existential crisis on how to like hone in our humanity in our final years before we all kill ourselves, destroy humanity. Jamie Wheel is the co-author of the global bestseller Stealing Fire, How Silicon Valley and the Can I start that over? Jamie Wheel is the co-author of the global bestseller Stealing Fire, How Silicon Valley, the Navy SEALs, and maverick scientists are revolutionizing the way we live and work. And the founder of the Flow, that was the whole title of the book. And the founder of the Flow Genome Project, an organization dedicated to the research and training of human performance. His work and ideas have been covered in the New York Times, the Financial Times, Wired, the Harvard Business Review, and Forbes. He lives near the Colorado River with his wife, Julie, and their 2 kids, and a golden retriever named Aslan. Like Azkaban, but Aslan. So that's this week, baby. We're going to be reading that. Feel free to tune in for that conversation next week live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. Go to my blog, cadenkellysblog.wordpress.com. Go to the app that tickles your fancy. Follow me, subscribe, whatever it is. Turn on your notifications, and when I go live, it will be next Monday, and it could be any time because I'm fucking unpredictable at this point. But November 7th, it should be in the AM time before noon Mountain Standard Time. You'll get a notification. Click on the link. Join the conversation. Hop in the chat. Share your thoughts. Have a good time with us. Otherwise, you can catch the episode on Spotify, at Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Search for the episode title and the podcast name, and you'll find it. And yeah, this week, take some accountability for your money, right? Whatever you can do to improve your financial situation, do it. And you won't regret it. All of this stuff is supposed to help improve our life, the quality of our lives. And we can do that. We can do that by taking responsibility, taking accountability of all of our decisions. It also includes our money decisions. Until then, we will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, my boys. We'll see you later. Have a good one.
したいとで読み直しているで読み直しているだけがで読み直しているで読み直している